That's interesting. Unique origin, engineering, and purpose. They propose 4 research centers: the Data Collection and Analysis Center, the Advanced Technology Center, the Consciousness Center, and the Technology Application Center will investigate and inventory available information and materials, investigate emerging and/or disruptive advanced materials and controls, alternative energy power source generation opportunities, temporal translation, human effects and interface, signature reduction and weaponry, as well as technology integration. It's kind of like the 5 observables right there. The Consciousness Center expand on remote viewing and remote communication to communicate, retrieve data, and transport across dimensional space-time barrier. Wow, look at that.
Chris Lehto. Welcome to Lehto Files.
Hello, welcome to the show. I'm Chris Lehto, retired F-16 pilot, now investigating the UAP Enigma. This video is about Kona Blue. The Kona Blue program was a proposed Department of Homeland Security DHS initiative. It aimed to cover the retrieval and exploitation of non-human biological materials. We'll go through this proposal in detail, but need to say up front that it was never officially approved or formally established as a program, so it was just a proposal. It was mentioned as part of the Department of Defense's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office Part 1 review. Interestingly, it was delayed. Kona Blue was originally declassified in July of 2023, 2 days after David Grush's hearings, but they haven't released it till now, just till this past week in April, mid-April 2024. It seems like AARO has definitely held on to this document and not released it until it was advantageous to their PR. Kona Blue was originally linked to the Advanced Aerospace Weapon System Application Program, to AAWSAP, and the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP. Both of those programs were managed by the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA. So after those programs were canceled, Kona Blue was conceived to carry on the investigations. The proposal suggested that DHS, Department of Homeland Security, continue the work started by DIA, focusing on investigating and analyzing advanced aerospace technologies, specifically non-human biologics, to house non-human biologics. However, it was never funded or equipped with any materials, and it remained a speculative proposal without physical evidence or implementation, according to Politico. So in a broader context, the AARO's review aimed to debunk theories of any secret UAP programs. That's why they delayed the release till after their Part 1 review. AARO clarified that many UFO sightings over the years were misidentifications of mundane phenomena or misunderstood national security projects. Although they still never mentioned Nimitz, they never mentioned any of the East Coast engagements with all the drones and drone incursions that we've seen over Langley. They didn't mention Aguadilla as well. So they haven't mentioned any of the actual real cases that we're interested in. They didn't mention Stephenville. That's where F-16s actually launched, and there's detailed radar data over Stephenville. They also still have yet to release any nuclear information. All of that will supposedly be coming in Part 2. Part 1 was basically just to say there's nothing to see here, and they did include Kona Blue, and we'll go through that. So AARO has a whole page on Kona Blue in their March 6, 2024, Volume 1 release, right? Report on historical record of U.S. government involvement with unidentified anomalies. This report was lambasted by the UFO community. Basically, like I mentioned, didn't include any of the big cases and just said there's nothing to see here. It's like a blue book cover page again. But here it is, Volume 1, page 34 of Volume 1. Kona Blue proposed UAP recovery and reverse engineering program. Again, proposed. Kona Blue was brought to AARO's attention by interviewees who claimed it was a sensitive Department of Homeland Security compartment to cover up the retrieval and exploitation of non-human biologics. Kona Blue traces its origins to the DI-managed AAWSAP AATIP program, which was funded through special appropriation and executed by its primary contractor, a private defense organization. DIA canceled the program in 2012 due to lack of merit and the utility of deliverables. When DIA canceled this program, its supporters proposed to DHS that they create and fund a new version of AAWSAP AATIP under a special access program. This proposal, codenamed Kona Blue, would restart UAP investigations, paranormal research, including alleged human consciousness anomalies, and reverse engineer any recovered off-world spacecraft that they hoped to require. This proposal gained some initial traction at DHS to the point where a prospective special access program, a PSAP, was officially requested to stand up the program, but it was eventually rejected by DHS leadership for lacking merit. As demonstrated by the proposal package and by statements from the originator, Senators Lieberman and Reed asked that the PSAP be established with the promise of additional funding. The proposed Kona Blue lines of effort closely mirrored those conducted by the private sector organization for AAWSAP AATIP. That would be Bigelow Aerospace. So AARO basically blames it all on the advocates. Kona Blue's advocates were convinced that the U.S. government was hiding UAP technologies. They believed that creating this program under DHS would allow all of the technology and knowledge of these alleged programs to be moved under the Kona Blue program. From an already identified and calibrated list of retired, previously highly placed government, armed services, contractor, and intelligence community individuals, the Oral History Project will include gathering all information pertaining to the location of advanced aerospace technology and biological samples, including records, files, reports, photographs, as well as physical samples. So AARO says here, it's critical to note that no extraterrestrial craft or bodies were ever collected, ever. They look so hard. This material was only assumed to exist by Kona Blue advocates and its anticipated contract performers. This was the same assumption made by those same individuals involved with the AAWSAP AATIP program. The SAP was never approved or stood up, and no data or material was transferred to DHS. So AARO basically blames it all on a few people, which they said are inside the government. Although if we look, that includes retired, previously highly placed government, armed services, contractor, and intelligence community individuals. Kona Blue was not reported to Congress at that time because it was never established as a special access program and therefore did not meet the threshold for congressional reporting. However, the Deputy Secretary of Defense provided a congressional notification concerning the program when it was identified in the spirit of transparency. So that's interesting. So the Deputy Secretary of Defense did provide a congressional notification in the spirit of transparency, which we haven't seen really anywhere else. So that's AARO's initial volley. Okay, they held on to this. They did not. It was declassified again last July, and they held on to it until after they could release this report in March 2023, basically saying that, again, there's nothing to see here. And although they've done pretty much minimal to no investigation, they can say with certainty that no extraterrestrial craft or bodies were ever collected, even though we have, again, 40 plus whistleblowers. Let's go now to actually the Kona Blue document. Look through that. Okay, Department of Homeland Security, February 5th, 2024, to the Honorable Kathleen Hicks, Deputy Secretary of Defense. Dear Hicks, thank you for your letter on September 28th, 2023. The Department of Homeland Security agrees to provide the Department of Defense with documents and relevant information associated with Kona Blue. Kona Blue was a DHS prospective special access program terminated on February 10th, 2012. The following actions were taken. All DHS documents associated with Kona Blue are declassified and approved for public release. The strikeout method was utilized to retain visibility. This is amazing. Instead of just the black boxes, they use strikeout, which is great. All pertinent DHS records have been searched and no additional information associated with the PSAP has been discovered. That was from Acting Deputy Secretary, Department of Homeland Security, Christy Kanagalo. Okay, so now it's unclassified, but it was top secret, so very highly classified. Kona Blue, no foreign, so that means not for foreign eyes. Handle via special access channels only, have SACO. So that, again, this is a very highly classified program that they were asking for. Prospective special access program, nicknamed Kona Blue. Again, declassified 2023, July 18th. Thank you to Richard McComb for declassifying this. Basically under advanced technology threat, the project description, the project will investigate, identify, and analyze sensitive information, advanced materials, and technologies to increase the basic knowledge of potential emerging or disruptive scientific and technical data. This project addresses basic, applied, and advanced research and technology demonstrations in order to identify and anticipate threats to the U.S. homeland. Homeland Security, Science and Technology has the prospect to identify a unique class of scientific and technology threats and opportunities. Puts here customers, partners, DHS components, U.S. government, and private sector. Here's the funding that they're asking for. Fiscal year 12 is 12 million, 25 million, 35 to 50 million, and then to be determined after that. They say this research is a congressional interest item. They mentioned in AARO's report was Lieberman and Reed. This research addresses the critical need for the U.S. science and technology community to identify global emerging and or potentially disruptive technologies that can have a significant impact on homeland security. So defense of borders, you're seeing all these weird drones on the East Coast. We see drones again on the West Coast. So it could be applicable. This is interesting here. The department's interest area with this project targets is the scientific and technical investigation, threat analysis, and assessment of materials and data of unique origin, engineering, and purpose. The knowledge gap this research is addressing is emerging or disruptive materials and technologies that can potentially impact national power and security. That's interesting. Unique origin, engineering, and purpose. They propose 4 research centers: the Data Collection and Analysis Center, the Advanced Technology Center, the Consciousness Center, and the Technology Application Center will investigate and inventory available information and materials. Investigate emerging and or disruptive advanced materials and controls, alternative energy power source generation opportunities, temporal translation, human effects and interface, signature reduction and weaponry, as well as technology integration. It's kind of like the 5 observables right there. Human effects and interface. Interesting. This knowledge-based research addresses the analytical assumptions and uncertainties of emerging and disruptive technologies or material that could potentially threaten vital and major U.S. interests, such as the security of land, air, and sea borders. Yeah, again, with all these drone incursions. And citizens or critical infrastructure or economic resources. Are there collaborators or partners involved? No, not at project inception. So AARO said that was Bigelow Aerospace, right? They said that there is a private contractor, but they say here there's limited collaboration with the U.S. government and interagency involvement is anticipated. So I don't know what AARO is talking about there. It gives a history here. So Advanced Threat Identification Program, that's AATIP, first sponsored in the fiscal year 2008 Defense Supplemental Act by Senators Reed and Inouye with a $10 million ad. Fiscal year 2010 Defense Appropriations Act included a $12 million ad for the project. How much funding will be necessary to complete this effort as described? So I already mentioned 12 million, 25 million, and then 35 to 50 million. Again, that's peanuts, I think, for these type of programs. I mean, just getting the security, like securing just a building to handle this type of material. So top secret, have SACO, costs many millions of dollars already. So the program's technical scientific approach consists of 4 research centers. Again, this is all proposed: data collection analysis, advanced technology, consciousness, and integration. Integrating humans with the interface, quite interesting. The data collection division will collect and deliver reports. The experimental division initially will consist of a well-studied experimental location that has been researched for approximately 15 years. I wonder if that sounds like Skinwalker Ranch. The intent is to locate, calibrate, and then subject other sites to the same intensive study as the primary location. Within each location, focus remote sensing capabilities on all known hotspots. Focus remote sensing capabilities on all known hotspots, locations with repeated, frequent reports of activity. So 15 years, this was in 2012. So that'd be up to, so starting in 1997. Does that sound right for you guys for Skinwalker Ranch? The medical division will have a small team of medical analysts under the direction of the chief physician and the deputy administrator that will organize data into a threat analysis based on medical findings, including but not limited to deaths and injuries as a result of interaction with advanced aerospace vehicles, medical injuries as a result of other anomalies, collateral injuries, physiological effects to family members. Wow, to family members. The data analysis division will conduct analysis to technical design and prototyping of advanced aerospace vehicle performance, up to advanced theoretical and computational studies of multiphysics problems. Okay, so yeah, definitely believe all this is real. Whoever wrote this. So what will the Advanced Technology Center do? Access recovered advanced technology. So assuming that the technology has already been captured in any earlier assessments to determine threat capability and any potential countermeasures possible against the advanced technology. Collect oral histories from already identified sources, retired military, intelligence, and contractor personnel to assist in locating additional recovered advanced technology. The Consciousness Center, interesting. Collect critical data utilizing remote sensing in order to determine the activity and purpose of the advanced technology, especially any threat posed. So remote sensing. It sounds like remote viewing. In an expanded role, remote sensing and related techniques may present an invaluable aid in countering illicit activities conducted against the U.S. Demonstrations of capability will be made. Integration Center, focal point for the integration of information and data from the other centers and report writing, follow on basic and applied research proposals and efforts to be identified. Interesting stuff. So this is the idea, Department of Homeland Security, Company X. Is that going to be Bigelow Aerospace again? Goes to those 4 divisions we talked about, and then to another company, Company Y, that will do Advanced Tech Consciousness Center, Integration Center. They add in a third company, which is Company Z. This is interesting here for the Data Collection Center. Develop an internet-based site for advanced aerospace vehicle reporting and expand the existing data warehouse 200,000 reports. Is that what they want to go up to, or do they already have 200,000 reports? Deploy in-house investigators on select cases, operate liaison center for cooperation with state, local, tribal police, and FBI. The Advanced Technology Center analyze recovered technology in collaboration with major aerospace and electronics companies. And you wonder. Determine geographical locations within the U.S. where anomalous activity occurs. So be starting, I guess, with Skinwalker Ranch and then trying to determine where other anomalous activity occurs. And subject at least 2 of the best locations to intense sensor and human observation study while monitoring activity at others. The Consciousness Center expand on remote viewing and remote communication to communicate, retrieve data, and transport access and transport across dimensional space-time barrier. Wow, look at that. Develop remote viewing countermeasures to stop remote viewing. Study consciousness interactions with and control of technology. So that's quite interesting because Michael Herrera, in my interviews with him, he basically says that that's what they're doing is they use humans to actually consciously control the technology. Medical Center will study physiological and psychological effects of interaction with vehicles and anomalous phenomenon. And the Education Center will develop a volunteer corps, and continue to maintain the world's largest libraries on advanced aerospace vehicles and associated phenomena. Look at this justification for need. Remote vision, remote communication, and rematerialization techniques to observe, communicate, retrieve data, and transfer matter across dimensional and space-time barriers. Wow. Will undoubtedly be of an utmost interest, if not a top collection priority, for adversarial intelligence security services. Countermeasures against such techniques would also be a collection priority. I've never heard that term, rematerialization techniques. To communicate, retrieve data, and transfer matter across dimensional and space-time barriers. This must be why they want to have SACO. Undue attention by other United States government or private sector entities not involved with the program or any international interests will directly or indirectly interfere with the daily program mission and perhaps threaten the overall success of the program. Without the appropriate SAP protection, the costs associated with a compromise of specific features of this program, namely those in A and B, would result in grave consequences, perhaps irreversible, to the security of the United States. So look at this. Total number of personnel to be accessed, 15. And that seems like a very low number, right? Just 15 people. So the Data Collection Center, yeah, this is current reports. Expand the current data warehouse, which currently comprises 11 separate databases with over 200,000 advanced aerospace vehicle reports, the vast majority of which occurred after 1947, by expanding case numbers within each of the 11 databases. So cases they want actually investigated, the criteria is more than one eyewitness, less than 600 feet from the witness, physical evidence, traces on the ground, electromagnetic effects, physiological, pathological effects. The Data Analysis Center is going to expand in-house photographic analysis capabilities, also including but not limited to forward-looking infrared analysis. This must be after FLIR. Again, this was in 2012. Data Analysis Exchange with Air Force OSI. Interesting. Discuss joint collection and analysis of historical and recent cockpit recordings and electronic countermeasure recordings from Air Force, Navy, Marine, and Army. So ECM, that's going to pick up your enemy or adversary transmissions. So records, reports, raw data, threat analysis pertaining to advanced aerospace vehicle tracking by any agency or armed service within CONUS. So look at this. All data from low Earth orbit, LEO, lunar, and Mars-associated data, both historical and contemporary, from NASA. Satellite data on unknown targets from National Reconnaissance Office. Other uncorrelated imagery data from National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. Trajectory tracks of uncorrelated targets from NORAD, Northcom, Lincoln Labs, etc. Radar track records of uncorrelated targets from the FAA. And all data pertaining to interaction sightings of advanced aerospace vehicles at missile sites, nuclear weapons storage facilities, and at Air Force bases in CONUS. So that's what AARO should be doing. I mean, that's what they should be looking at if they actually cared about investigating this. I would love to see that. So this is interesting too. Advanced aerospace technology activity, behavior in other countries, particularly Canada, Mexico, and the Caribbean. I wonder if this is because Agua Dia. Mexico, I interviewed Eric Delgado. He had an amazing orb video of commercial pilot Delgado. Check that video out. That's an amazing video. Not sure in Canada. I just know that they've had their defense minister speak out. The Advanced Technology Center will be the first to gain access to and inventory all existing caches of advanced aerospace vehicle materials and documentation within CONUS, so that's within the U.S., contiguous U.S., whether residing in archive storage or under active program investigation in national laboratories, government organizations, and or contractors. Secondary to set up protocols for obtaining access to materials newly acquired from sources both domestic and foreign. In addition to in-house technical efforts, a program will be established to harness the talents of specialists with required expertise on an as-needed basis via both the use of in-house sabbaticals and outsourcing of some subcontracts. Of special interest in this category is contact with military personnel and contractors presently or retirees previously involved in AAV evaluation programs. I mean, this is exactly what you want to actually investigate the phenomenon. It'd be amazing if this was actually approved. Unfortunately, it was not. This is interesting. Over past decades, a number of high-level individuals in the military, intelligence, and even political sectors of our government have had various level of exposure, access to this subject area. This has included agency directors, members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and very senior individuals in the executive branch. Very senior individuals in the executive branch. To this can be added certain foreign heads of state, as well as select members of the government contractor community in the electronics and aerospace sectors. Oral histories from individuals of the caliber referenced above are critical to this mission. The Oral History Project will include gathering all information pertaining to the location of advanced aerospace technology and biological samples, including records, files, reports, photographs, as well as physical samples. Wow, that's amazing. These experimental centers, that's interesting. So well-studied experimental location exists that's been researched for approximately 15 years. Guessing that must be Skinwalker Ranch. They say here, in addition, biosensors, especially human observation and detection, in all perception formats constitute a key ingredient of the overall observational menu of activity and are therefore to be integrated. These biosensors. Multiple biological samples will be collected from these locations and subjected to genetic, biochemical, toxicology, material science, and other analysis. Given past evidence of human psychophysiological observation detection in all forms, what might be labeled integrative perception. Such perception constitutes a major component of the detection and registration of anomalous as well as mundane signals. Thus, the use of human observers as biosensors will be incorporated as a major component of the overall site monitoring efforts. Of some interest is whether individuals exposed to phenomena at site locations experience continuing effects as they relocate away from the sites under observation. We get to the Consciousness Center. The Consciousness Center manages the acquisition, training, and utilization of remote viewers and communicators. I've covered remote viewing several times on this channel. The CIA had a program for decades, as well as the US Army. These unorthodox techniques may prove to be critical collection methods for supplementing efforts within the data collection, advanced technology, and especially the experimental and medical centers. As an initial study, focus capabilities on all known hotspots. Extend remote communication programs to communicate and retrieve data across dimensional space-time barrier. So space-time barrier, basically, yeah, anywhere in space and any time. Develop remote viewing and remote communication countermeasures. I interviewed Lincoln Lounsbury. He's a remote viewer. He says there are countermeasures. Basically, you can be stopped. They can just stop you from going into a location. Study consciousness interactions with and control of technology. This is Michael Herrera has said this, that the advanced technology is actually controlled through human thought, specific humans that are capable of advanced consciousness interactions, so they can actually run the technology, run the advanced vehicles, and then conduct experiments to determine baseline parameters for physical transport, so transporting matter across dimensional space-time barrier as opposed to communication and data transfer only. So instead of just doing remote viewing, now you're doing remote transfer of matter and data. That would be amazing. There'll be a medical team responsible for continuing monitoring of personnel and their family members deployed on experimental facilities, and expand and reconfigure current preliminary correlation project between known advanced aerospace vehicle associated injuries, physiological effects, and ICD-9 subtypes. Let me know if you guys know what ICD-9 subtypes are. There'll be an education center really to train up investigators as volunteers. Okay, look, it is blacked out. So they do have some blacked out. It's not crossed out. Question 6. Wonder why they blacked that out. Question 7. A new building, small 1- and 2-story complex in Las Vegas, Nevada is available. So yeah, definitely Bigelow Aerospace. One building in the complex is a 5,000 square foot building containing 1,250 square feet in the latter stages of SCIF accreditation. So I've been through this process. It's basically going through the building and making sure nothing can get in, right? You basically make sure there's like metal grating on all of the pipes so no one can crawl in or put anything through there. You make sure the electronics, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's basically a Faraday cage. Another building is outfitted as a 5,000 square foot laboratory. The building complex is owned by, I'm guessing, Bigelow, and has never been occupied. A 480-acre research property in Utah with a 15-year history of intensive anomalous activity is owned by, I'm guessing, Bigelow again. The property is under 24/7 armed guard. So yeah, in Utah, it's got to be, again, Skinwalker Ranch. 2-word designator for the program is Kona Blue. Okay, all this to block out who's actually meeting. Okay, so it started in June 2011. Timeline up to October 2011. Completely blocked. 1 to 38 papers. I wonder if those are the DRIDs. So this is interesting. July 11, 2011. Memorandum for Dr. Tara O'Toole, Undersecretary for Science and Technology. Looks like she did sign it. To establishment of a DHS Science and Technology Prospective Special Access Program. So that made the PSAP. So it wasn't into a SAP, but it was a prospective SAP. This all the chairs. So these are the attendees. So that must be the Special Access Program. So I thought it was Officer in Charge membership, but this looks like Oversight Committee. So SAP OC must be the Oversight Committee. 6 people on that. Special Access Program Control Office. Okay, so this meeting was November 21, 2011. This is interesting. We get the meeting minutes. It's like we're there in the meeting. So the Deputy Secretary opened the meeting with an explanation of what caused this meeting to occur with some sense of urgency, which was the impending transfer of funds to DHS from Senators Reid and Lieberman to conduct the Kona Blue program. So it looks like Reid and Lieberman were making this happen. The entire meeting was devoted to the discussion. Dr. O'Toole discussed what she knew of the history of the program, She also stated the senators were prepared to provide $10 million for the execution of this program in the fiscal year 12 budget. Dr. O'Toole was asked why the FBI specifically was not approached to do this program. She answered that FBI had no organic capability to do research and development in the scientific arena. The discussion then shifted to what the rationale was for making the program a special access program. The general counsel said, okay, and this was totally blacked. A brief discussion was also held concerning why DHS was selected to conduct the research. Dr. O'Toole explained that the senators felt the technologies involved affected the security of the United States and was more than worthy of further investigation. You can see that now with all the drone incursions on the borders. Not such a ridiculous concept. Dr. O'Toole explained there's very serious science involved with this program. She felt the U.S. government had the responsibility to continue its investigation. She further stated that if only a small portion of the research provided viable results for DHS application, it would be worth it. So they discussed, is it just another collection program? So an intelligence program. But data in the sense of Kona Blue program is neither covertly nor clandestinely collected, as is norm in intelligence programs. So it's not covertly done overseas. It's really looking at what's going on in the U.S. So finally, S2 asked Dr. O'Toole and Mr. Cover to prepare a 5 to 10 page paper that fully documents how we got to where we are now with Kona Blue program, its provenance, and exactly what science would be researched that had applicability to the DHS mission. S2 is still not certain of what the it is in the program, otherwise what exactly we are researching. Again, the stigma, can't find anything towards ETs or aliens. She stated that some kind of formal request to DHS to accept this program and the associated funding would be very helpful. All right, and now here is the decision briefing. It sounds like it was not approved. So here's the program history. This is pretty interesting. In May of 2008, Senators Reid, Inouye, Stevens from Alaska invited blank program manager with the Defense Intelligence Agency to meet with them to express their interest to establish a research program plan involving exotic sciences. So Lieberman, I guess, was added to this list later. In July of 2008, Lieutenant General Maples, director of DIA, was briefed by Senator Reid to discuss a congressional ad of $10 million in startup funds for fiscal year 08 for the proposed effort. A request for proposal was issued by DIA, and a contract was awarded to Bigelow Aerospace, there we go, to research advanced aerospace threats and technologies. The focus of the contractor research was within 12 aerospace-related areas. Deliverables to the 2-year contract, total funding of $22 million for 38 research papers. These are the deliverables, DRIDs. An active searchable database, now with over 100,000 entries, and then later 200,000. And numerous investigative cases of the observed anomalies. Senator Reid had also requested DIA contract effort provide confirmation of observed physical and psychological phenomenon by government personnel. In 2009, Senator Reid communicated to the former Deputy Secretary of Defense, William Lynn, a request to provide a restricted SAP. Read on to the DIA program aspects involving the methodologies to identify, acquire any advanced technologies associated with the program. In December 2009 meeting, Lieutenant General Burgess, Director of DIA, former DoD Deputy Secretary, William Lynn, communicated to Reid that the DIA program cannot be conducted by the intelligence community due to its potential growth. Further, it was cited the initial effort was insufficient to classify the program or establish a special access program, and recommended that the program could be better suited for another agency or component. So that's probably why they end up going to DHS. Yep, in April 2011, Blank presented a program briefing to Mr. Joel Wall, DHS Science and Technology Director, Special Projects Office, inviting DHS to expand the depth of research involving the analysis of the compiled data repository, reiterating Senator Reid's desire to transition the program into a special access program to enable access to data and material held by other government and industry entities. Okay, and then here is the killing blow. So June 5th, 2013, from Mr. Stephen Cover, termination of Department of Homeland Security Science and Technology Prospective Special Access Program. The Deputy Secretary made the determination that DHS was not going to execute activities proposed for the DHS S&T PSAP Kona Blue. In conjunction with General Counsel, it was decided that the program as proposed did not require extraordinary security measures and terminated all activities within the department, and further directed the SAPCO to initiate program close down procedures. It's a letter from Harry Reid. Interesting here. He says, since the Advanced Aerospace Threat and Identification Program, spelled AATIP, and study were first commissioned, much progress has been made with the identification of several highly sensitive, unconventional aerospace-related findings. Given the current rate of success, the continued study of these subjects will likely lead to technology advancements that in the immediate near term will require extraordinary protection. Due to the sensitivities of the information surrounding aspects of this program, I require your assistance in establishing a restricted special access program with a bigoted access list for specific locations of the AATIP. So that was it. That was 56 pages of Kona Blue. Wow, interesting story. I wish it was approved. I mean, that would be just an amazing investigative effort. That's exactly what our government should be doing to actually research this if real. It's exactly what they should be doing. But it looks like, yeah, it came from those specific senators, Harry Reid, Inouye, and Stevens, really motivated by Reid and Lieberman to make this happen. After AAWSAP and AATIP were shut down, they asked Department of Homeland Security to take it over as advanced threats against the United States. If we look today, you look on the West Coast, you have all the drone incursions. Jeremy Corbell I covered on this channel, the Omaha, etc. Onto ships, you have the Nimitz engagement in 2004. Again, that was off the West Coast. Then you have the East Coast engagements with Ryan Graves. In just December 2023, there were incursions at Langley Air Force Base. Again, I covered that on this channel, mysterious drone swarms. And that's where Ryan Graves said in Whiskey 72, they had the encounters with unknown UAPs. Again, the dark or gray cube inside of a sphere. So it doesn't sound so outlandish that actually Department of Homeland Security would be involved in protecting these, although it is up to the Air Force to actually defend the borders. Interesting, I thought as well, was the mention of the experimental sites. So they mentioned, they didn't, not by name, but by location, 15 years, Skinwalker Ranch, owned by Bigelow Aerospace. They've been studying that for 15 years. And the consciousness studies to do remote transfer of matter, re- and dematerialization of matter. So not just communication and information finding, but actually moving stuff across the space-time barrier, they said. That is amazing. So if you think that maybe consciousness is the future of physics, right? Could we actually go to a point where you can transfer matter across any space or time? Then that would mean UAPs could be time travelers, as many people have said. The other part I thought interesting on that is what Michael Herrera said, is that these advanced aerospace vehicles could be controlled by humans. So basically some sort of consciousness link that actually allows humans to control advanced materials. So actually control these advanced aerospace vehicles, if the stories are actually true, Bob Lazar, etc. So either way, just an amazing proposal. It looks like AARO held on to this for almost a year, right? It basically was declassified July 2023, and now it's just being released in 2024. It was supposed to be released in February, right? That was before the March report, and I think they held on to it and then finally published on their website, on AARO's website, in April is when it actually published. So they held on to it for a long time until they could set the narrative straight and say that, oh, there's nothing to see here. What do you guys think actually of Kona Blue program? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button. Really helps the channel, and then subscribe for future notifications. If you want to support me and get access to exclusive Q&As and other videos, click on this link right here. Go to patreon.com/Chris Lehto, and for $5 a month, you get early ad-free access. You also get merchandise. So Lehto Files merchandise, anyone above $5 a month will get Lehto Files mugs, as well as shirts and other key merchandise. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.